The Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred object in human history, vanished without a trace over 2,500 years ago. This ornate golden chest, measuring just under 4 feet long, once held the original 10 Commandments and served as God's earthly throne. This wasn't just any religious artifact. The Ark wielded supernatural powers that could stop rivers, topple city walls, and strike down anyone who dared touch it. When the Israelites carried it into battle, entire armies crumbled before them. Even when the Philistines captured it, the Ark demonstrated its divine power by toppling the statue of their god Dagon and bringing plagues upon their cities until they desperately returned it. Yet sometime between 640 and 586 BCE, during the chaos surrounding the Babylonian conquest of Jerusalem, the most powerful object on earth simply vanished. What happened to the Ark of the Covenant? Was it destroyed, hidden, or stolen away to some distant land? The search for answers has consumed archaeologists, treasure hunters, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. These elaborate theories stretch from tunnels beneath Jerusalem to Ethiopian highlands, from Irish hilltops to secret Templar vaults. The Ark's story begins around 1446 BCE at Mount Sinai, where Moses received detailed construction instructions directly from God. The specifications demanded acacia wood overlaid entirely with pure gold, both inside and out. 4 golden rings attached to its base allowed gold-plated carrying poles to pass through. The lid, known as the mercy seat or caporet, featured 2 golden cherubim with outstretched wings facing each other. God specifically selected Bezalel as the craftsman and filled him with supernatural skill. Working alongside his assistant, Oholiab, Bezalel created what would become Judaism's most sacred object. The completed ark measured roughly 4 feet by 2 feet in modern measurements. Inside this golden chest lay the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. Later, according to scripture, Aaron's miraculous rod and a pot of manna from the wilderness joined them. But the ark's true significance went far beyond its contents. This was the Almighty's footstool, the place where heaven touched earth. When God spoke to Moses, his voice came from between the golden cherubim. The ark's power became legendary almost immediately. When the Israelites crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land, priests carrying the ark stepped into the rushing waters and the river stopped flowing completely. The entire nation crossed on dry ground. At the Battle of Jericho, the ark led a 7-day procession around the city walls. On the 7th day, as priests blew their trumpets and people shouted, those massive fortifications collapsed. The ark was so sacred that specific protocols governed every aspect of its handling. Only Levitical priests could carry it, and only by its golden poles, never by direct contact. The penalty for touching the ark was immediate death. Uzzah discovered this when he instinctively reached out to stop it from falling during transport and was immediately struck dead by God. The very presence of God that dwelt above the mercy seat made the ark untouchable by ordinary mortals. For centuries, the ark traveled with the Israelites, housed first at Shiloh in an elaborate tent called the tabernacle. It rested in the innermost chamber, separated from the outside world by thick curtains. Only the high priest could enter this sacred space, and only once a year on the Day of Atonement, when he sprinkled sacrificial blood on the mercy seat to atone for the nation's sins. Around 1000 BCE, King David captured Jerusalem and decided to bring the ark to his new capital. This wasn't a simple relocation. David assembled 30,000 chosen men of Israel for the procession. The journey brought both celebration and terror. When Uzzah died for touching the ark, David temporarily abandoned the mission in fear. When the ark finally reached Jerusalem, David danced before it with such abandon that his wife Michal despised him for it. David's son, King Solomon, took the next crucial step. Around 960 BCE, he completed the magnificent Solomon's Temple in Jerusalem, creating a permanent home for the ark. The temple's innermost sanctuary, the Holy of Holies, was a perfect cube measuring 30 feet in each direction, its walls overlaid with pure gold. Here, in absolute darkness, broken only by the supernatural glow of God's presence, the ark rested between 2 massive golden cherubim with 15-foot wingspans. For nearly 4 centuries, the ark remained in Solomon's temple. Pilgrims came from across the known world to worship at the temple where God's presence dwelt. The ark anchored not just Israel's religious life, but its national identity. This was their guarantee that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was with them. But something went terribly wrong. The last clear biblical reference to the Ark appears during King Josiah's reign in the late 7th century BCE. In 2 Chronicles, Josiah commands the Levites to put the Holy Ark in the temple that Solomon built. This instruction suggests the Ark had been removed from the temple at some point, though the text doesn't explain when or why. Then, complete silence. When the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar II destroyed Jerusalem and the temple in 586 BCE during the Babylonian captivity, the detailed biblical accounts of the plunder never mention the Ark. The lists of treasures carried off to Babylon are extensive. Golden vessels, silver implements, bronze pillars. But the most valuable object of all is missing from the record. When the Jews returned from exile and rebuilt the Second Temple around 516 BCE, the new Holy of Holies stood empty. The historian Josephus confirms this, stating that the Second Temple contained no Ark. For the next 5 centuries, until the Romans destroyed the Second Temple in 70 CE during the First Jewish-Roman War, Judaism's most sacred space remained conspicuously vacant. Where did it go? The theories are as numerous as they are fascinating. The simplest explanation is also the most devastating. Many scholars believe the Ark was destroyed, along with everything else, when the Babylonians sacked Jerusalem. 2 Kings mentions that Nebuchadnezzar cut in pieces all the vessels of gold in the temple of the Lord. If the Ark met this fate, humanity's most sacred object was reduced to raw materials and carried off to Babylon as mere treasure. But other theories are far more intriguing. Some of Judaism's greatest sages, including Maimonides, believed that King Solomon, in his wisdom, had anticipated this disaster. They proposed that Solomon constructed secret tunnels and chambers beneath the Temple Mount, where the Ark could be hidden during times of danger. According to this theory, King Josiah, sensing the approaching Babylonian threat, secretly moved the Ark to these underground vaults where it remains to this day. This theory gained credibility in 1981, when Rabbi Yehuda Getz, the official rabbi of the Western Wall, was called to investigate tunnels being excavated near the Temple Mount. What happened next reads like something from an Indiana Jones film. Rabbi Getz claimed to have discovered a chamber that might contain the Ark beneath Warren's Gate, originally discovered by British archaeologist Charles Warren in the 1860s. But before Rabbi Getz could explore further, the Israeli government sealed the passage due to political sensitivities surrounding the site. Remarkably, this occurred just 1 month after Raiders of the Lost Ark was released in theaters. The Temple Mount today houses the Dome of the Rock, one of Islam's holiest sites. Local Muslim authorities strictly forbid any archaeological excavation, creating an impossible situation. If the Ark truly lies beneath this ancient foundation, it may remain forever beyond our reach, protected by modern geopolitics rather than angelic guardians. Another theory takes us far from Jerusalem to the mountains of Jordan. According to the book of 2nd Maccabees, the prophet Jeremiah received a divine revelation about the coming destruction. Acting on God's instructions, Jeremiah took the Ark, the tabernacle, and the altar of incense to Mount Nebo, the same mountain where Moses viewed the promised land before his death. The text describes how Jeremiah found a cave dwelling on the mountain and carried these sacred objects inside, then sealed the entrance. He told his companions that the location would remain hidden until God gathers his people together again and shows his mercy. The account concludes ominously. No one will find that place until the Lord gathers his people together again. If this account is accurate, the Ark of the Covenant lies somewhere in the caves of Mount Nebo, waiting for discovery during end times. But perhaps the most exotic theory takes us to Africa. In the ancient Ethiopian text known as the Kebra Nagast, or Glory of the Kings, we find an entirely different version of events. According to this medieval work, the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon resulted in more than just diplomatic relations. The text claims that Solomon and the Queen conceived a son named Menelik I, who later traveled to Jerusalem to visit his father. The story takes a dramatic turn when Menelik I, with help from some Israelite nobles, allegedly stole the Ark from Solomon's temple, replacing it with a clever replica. The real Ark was then carried to Ethiopia, where it has remained ever since in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in the ancient city of Axum. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church maintains this claim to this day. They assert that the Ark rests in a special chapel, adjacent to the ancient church, guarded by a single monk appointed for life. This guardian, once chosen, can never leave the chapel again. He spends his remaining years in constant prayer and worship before creation's most sacred object. During the Ethiopian Orthodox celebration of Timkat festival, replica arks called tabots are carried in procession throughout Ethiopia, maintaining the ancient connection between the Ethiopian people and their claimed possession of the true ark. The Ethiopian claim gained international attention in June 2009, when Abune Paulos, the patriarch of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, announced that he would reveal the ark to the world. Media outlets around the globe prepared for what could have been the archaeological discovery of the century. But the next day, the patriarch mysteriously reversed his decision, stating only that he could attest to its current status, but would not unveil it after all. What happened in those crucial 24 hours remains a mystery. In 1992, Edward Ullendorf, a respected professor of Ethiopian studies who had served as a British Army officer, revealed that he had actually examined the object in the Axum Church in 1941. His assessment was devastating. What he saw was what you find in any Ethiopian church, which is a model of the Ark of the Covenant. It wasn't ancient and certainly wasn't the original Ark. Yet the Ethiopian tradition persists, supported by centuries of royal claims. Ethiopia's medieval Solomonic dynasty, which ruled until 1974, based their entire legitimacy on descent from Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Emperor Haile Selassie's constitutions of 1931 and 1955 officially codified this biblical connection. The search for the Ark has also attracted its share of controversial characters. Ron Wyatt, an American nurse anesthetist turned amateur archaeologist, claimed in 1982 to have discovered the Ark in a cave system beneath the crucifixion site in Jerusalem. Wyatt's story included dramatic details about earthquake-created cracks that allowed Christ's blood to drip onto the mercy seat below, fulfilling ancient prophecy. Wyatt's claims were extensive. He professed to have made nearly 100 biblical discoveries, including Noah's Ark, the remains of Sodom and Gomorrah, and even samples of Jesus' blood. The archaeological establishment was unimpressed, where Joe Zayas of the Israel Antiquities Authority dismissed Wyatt's work as trash, which one finds in tabloids such as the National Enquirer. The Dead Sea Scrolls have added another intriguing element to the mystery. Among these ancient texts, discovered between 1947 and 1956, was the remarkable copper scroll, literally a scroll made of copper rather than parchment or papyrus. Found among texts left by the Essenes, an ancient Jewish sect at Qumran, the copper scroll reads like a treasure map. The scroll describes 64 separate caches of precious metals and religious objects hidden in 57 different locations around Jerusalem and the surrounding area. The total value of these treasures, if found today, would exceed $3 billion, while the Ark isn't specifically mentioned in the scroll. Some scholars believe the silver and gold and vessels described could include temple treasures that were hidden before the Roman destruction in 70 CE. Stephen Fan, one of the scroll's editors, called it a tremendous witness to history. To actually have a list of treasures from the temple itself, from the 1st century, is just amazing. We have nothing better than the copper scroll now for telling us what was really there. The Knights Templar have also been drawn into Ark mythology. These medieval knights established their headquarters on the Temple Mount itself, in the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex, built directly over Solomon's temple ruins. For nearly 2 centuries, the Templars had unparalleled access to the temple site. Legends suggest they spent this time searching the subterranean chambers for lost treasures, possibly including the Ark itself. Some theories propose that the Templars successfully located and removed the Ark, transporting it to Europe, where it remains hidden in Templar strongholds in France or England. The sudden wealth and power that the Templars accumulated has been cited as potential evidence of their discovery of valuable temple treasures. Modern researchers like Graham Hancock have continued investigating these connections, proposing links between Templar activities and the Ethiopian claims through medieval trade routes and religious exchanges. The cultural impact of the Ark's mystery reached its zenith with the 1981 release of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas's film introduced the Lost Ark to a global audience, embedding it permanently in popular consciousness. The film's success was extraordinary. It became 1981's highest-grossing movie and earned 9 Academy Award nominations. The film inspired a generation of archaeologists. Actor John Rhys Davies, who played Salah in the film, reported meeting over 150 professors and archaeologists who cited Raiders of the Lost Ark as the inspiration for their career choice. The movie's portrayal of the Ark's supernatural power, while dramatized for entertainment, drew from genuine biblical accounts of its miraculous abilities. Today, the search continues on multiple fronts. Modern technology offers new possibilities for the search. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and other non-invasive techniques could potentially locate hidden chambers without the need for disruptive excavation. But even these approaches face significant obstacles when dealing with sites of such religious and political sensitivity. Most historians today believe that if the Ark ever existed, it was most likely destroyed during one of Jerusalem's many conquests. The harsh reality is that very few artifacts survive 2,500 years of war, conquest, and natural decay. Even if hidden in a cave or buried chamber, the combination of moisture, earthquakes, and time would likely have reduced any wooden object to dust long ago. Yet the search continues because the stakes are so high. The discovery of the Ark of the Covenant would be a world-changing event with profound religious and political implications. For believers, it would provide tangible proof of biblical accounts and divine intervention in human history. For archaeologists, it would represent the greatest discovery of all time, surpassing even the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb by Howard Carter. What makes the Ark's disappearance so compelling isn't just the mystery itself, but what it represents. Here was an object that bridged the gap between heaven and earth. Its very existence challenged human understanding of the divine and what is possible. Its disappearance left a void that has never been filled. The Holy of Holies remains empty, waiting